Potholes and Penguins
with Barry and Trimby.
Hello everybody, you're very welcome to Potholes and Penguins. It is Sunday evening. How are you, lads?
Hello, Barry. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, boys.
What a strange weekend for rugby. There was only one game and I got sick of it after a while because they were getting such a hiding. So I didn't really watch it all. And that was it. That's the first time we've had a weekend like that since September. So I clawed back a bit of my time. It's enjoyable.
What did you do to claw it back?
I had got toasty drunk on Friday night.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Toasty.
In front of
with Borat?
A fire pit. I went to a friend's house and we sat in front of his fire pit.
One of the book South African fire big pits.
I'd say it was Aldi.
All right.
It was a little Aldi fire pit. It was gorgeous. Carl Sheridan, who was on the show before, has a keg out his back garden. So we had about seven or eight pints.
Guinness.
And then, no, Heineken. And then we had a rake of wine, which was...
No way, on top of it?
on top of it. Bananas. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was the therapy I needed. Talk and rope.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, what was the tone? Was the tone slaggy? Was it?
Oh, yeah. Slagging the bands.
Yeah, that's what we've missed then, is it? Like,
oh, totally. And then, do you remember this?
Abusing each other.
That? Yeah.
He's a great one for that.
Yeah, he is. So it's good. It's good. That was good for me. And then, that's it really. Did jobs. I did a bit of hiking.
Where did you go hiking?
Silver Mines.
Just into them.
Just into them.
Up on top of them.
Up over on top of them.
How many questions did you ask Paulie?
Good few.
Were you conscious of it that we said? Did you just ask him questions all the way up and all the way down?
Yeah, and it was very windy, so he was getting annoyed at the wind, and my levels weren't high enough for the wind. But no, it was good. Tried to avoid the rugby conversations, obviously, because I feel like I'd be wrecking his head. Oh, it's good. I can't be telling, you know.
Yeah,
can't be telling any of the secrets.
Oh, good secrets. Oh, great secrets.
Yeah. Gives you the odd few nuggets, like.
Did he let it slip? Did he let anything slip?
No, he's so tactical.
No.
What else? What did you get up to?
No hiking for me, but Anna was working all weekend, so I was just with the kids the whole time. I'm exhausted, boys. I'm ran ragged. I remember reading, there was an article I read one time about a father talking about holidays where you spend 24/7 with the kids, and he's like, it feels like you go on holidays. It feels like you've gone to Hacksaw Ridge on holidays, you know? Just because you come home, you're just destroyed by your own kids.
I was thinking today, I was thinking about how amazing it would be to go on holidays with the kids and all that, but I have a very naive, silly way of looking at it, that it's all going to be amazing when that is the reality. Hacksaw Ridge is the reality, I'd say, is it? I've never been on holidays with them. Yeah,
when they're kids, I'd say it is, yeah. When they're very little. But I think our kids now, we could probably put them into, you know, if you go to when I think of holidays with the kids, I think of South of France, Eurocamp, that sort of stuff. That's what we like to do when things are normal. And then you can put them into kids club and kind of break the day up a little bit, and then they can float around with their armbands a little bit, so they don't require that much attention. And you're putting a lot of trust in effectively just, you know, a thin little bit of plastic.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
And air, effectively. Which is supposed to be up, but a lot of trust in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was tired. I'm tired.
How was your weekend, Jeremy?
I was up and down Mullaghmore there a couple of hours ago. Lads, it's mind blower. Like, I really recommend anyone who's coming to Clare to do it. Do that and do the cliff walk along the Cliffs Moher. I'm going to do that in the next few weeks. But I went up Mullaghmore and I saw, I'd say, a couple of hours, if not a couple of days old, billy goat that had just been born as well, and it was just mighty. it's just so mad up there, lads. I know I talked about it last week, and I meant to watch that Burn documentary this week, but it's class. So I listened to John Spillan's new album all the way up and all the way back. And
Singing about it.
oh, we were laughing so much. Like, do you know John Spillan, Trimby?
No.
He is this character of a songwriter from Passage. Is he from Passage West?
That's Cork.
Passage East.
It's from Cork, anyway.
Yeah. But he's gas. Some of the songs are completely hilarious. One of them, he rhymes thrush with Kilrush, and he rhymes moon with moonlight. Just loads of silly.
Love it.
And he's got one.
I got
it's
thrush
the fourth.
in Kilrush. And itchy in Kilkee.
Oh, he's a gas fucker. He's got the fourth track on the album is Billy in the Sky, and it's kind of like a Britney Spears B-side from
No
something.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just going
going
for it.
John Reynolds produced it. You know, the
Oh,
drummer
yeah,
that was
drummer
going
for
to
Mick-
married to
Mick Flannery, no?
drummer from
John
Damien
Reynolds
Dempsey. He was married to Sinead O'Connor for a while.
O'Connor, yes.
Brilliant
Sorry.
producer. So there, go listen to that. It's gas altogether.
Apparently, the first settlers in Ireland were on the Burn 33,000 years ago. A load of black lads with blue eyes.
Really?
They can tell from the bones of the reindeer. Some shit like that. Not mad.
Love that. Trimby, you got a lovely purple jumper.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
First.
Thanks. Do you think in 33 million years they'll
13,000
know what colour
years.
my jumper was by the bones of my reindeers?
Bones of your ginger cat. There might be a lot of rugby on, but it's Academy Award week,
Oh yeah.
so I've been trying to get up to speed with films because it's been a strange year. You don't get to go to the cinema to watch all these whatever you want to call them, blockbusters or the best films of the year. So normally you'd have watched a good bit of them in the movies, or wouldn't you? It's changed. I don't even think it's just the pandemic. I think, or because there's so many different platforms now that these films, maybe it is the pandemic, but
Yeah, they maybe
don't.
accelerated it. I think that might have been
they slip by a bit more.
Yeah.
I heard Leonardo DiCaprio say this, that because we consume them differently now. There's so many options, and there are so many entertainment options for us to do now. Whereas 20 years ago, a new film was the biggest. You know, there was the anticipation of a film like Lord of the Rings or
Titanic.
or Harry Potter or something like that. Probably Harry Potter would be still pretty big, but do you remember the build up when they would come out in America first? They might come out here. You'd be waiting for them for ages.
You'd be
Now-
watching the movie review.
Yeah,
The
And
interviews.
trailer, how powerful the trailers were.
Yeah.
That's kind of stopped, and he said he was drawing reference to that, saying, "Yeah, okay, it has stopped because there's so many different things for us to watch now." However, the money going into films now is so much more that films that would never been made before are being made now.
There's more money being put into.
Yeah. So back in the day,
movies.
you would have only trusted X amount of film companies. They would be the only ones that would produce films.
Yeah.
So many scripts would be going the wayside because they were never going to make a certain amount of money. Whereas now, there's so many different types of production studios.
Because
and-
technology's not as expensive as it used to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone's a filmmaker. And there's far more directors and far more movies getting made. So then,
Yeah, exactly. And the best films. He says all the best ideas are being made now. The films that he would have always wanted to do are now being made. And there's probably actors as well like him are putting more money back into film and stuff, which is a very interesting way to look at it because there
That is
is
cool.
such a variety of mad films. And I watched one of them last night, which is going to be, I think it's tipped as to be the best film for next weekend's Academy Awards, called Sound of Metal. It's about a drummer losing his hearing.
what?
Of a death metal drummer losing his hearing. You watched the Trimby as well, didn't you?
I watched it, yeah. And actually, it was last week. A mate of mine sent me the trailer, and I thought the trailer looked like a little bit, like reminded me a little bit of A Star Is Born. I think it starts off with that, and there is something similar to that, but then it goes a different direction.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah, it's very dark, but very, very powerful. It's brilliant.
But there's a good example of a film that would have, may not have been made. Even the way they made it, like,
is it a true story?
No, I don't think so. But it's a lot of it is in his head, so it's silence. Like, for good, I'd love to see a percentage of how much.
It's very good. It's really good at kind of
muffled
communicating. Yeah, how muffled it is and what it was like for him. It really gives you kind of good perspective.
Have you ever had?
Tinnitus.
I've had a little
bit of ringy.
When we finished last year, it couldn't have come at a better time for me, because by February, March last year, I was getting weird sensations in my head, because I have sometimes.
That's for you.
Yeah, sometimes I have to pull. Like, we obviously wear headphones when we're playing, like in-ear molded, so they're molded to my ear, so they go right in there. They don't necessarily block out sound. They're very clear. They're like high-end stuff, but I get really kind of cut off sometimes, so I have to take one out. And a lot of times I'll be right beside Dermy's cymbals and his everything and my bass, and it, because
not to point the finger of blame, Dermy.
But I was getting like all just, and it happened so gradually, like which I don't know if the film was actually quite sudden what happened to him, but it happened so gradually that you don't notice it, and then after a while you're like, fuck, this feels wrong, and now it feels like I'm back to normal.
If you guys ever went deaf, I would learn sign and we would do a podcast completely in sign.
Just the dick and the fuck you and the dick, the wank sign. Have any issues of yours? You're right.
A little bit of ringy over the last year, actually, since we started editing this, since started making this. I think I changed headphones. I was probably listening far too loud when I was mixing and editing, and a little bit of just a bing when the hair follicle is either going down or going back up. Isn't that what Phil McGee told us years ago, our producer, that sound is the hair, a tiny hair follicle in your ear either closing, and that is your follicle dead, or it's just it's wavering. Staying the up the ways.
Oh, I don't know. It's so delicate in there, though.
It is delicate.
It's very.
So there's a bit in the movie, and I don't think this is spoiling anything, but there's a bit in the movie where they try and encourage him to get used to the silence, I suppose. So his mentor tries to encourage him to sit just in the silence and write. Whenever you can't sit, you write, and just be kind of content or happy in the silence. And I thought that was a little bit like what we've discussed a little bit about, flow and kind of time passing quicker than it usually would do. That's why I thought both of you fellas would be interested in that in particular.
Yeah, that is that. I do that. That's what I try to achieve when I'm going to write something, is to sit in that moment of silence, be like unbelievably present.
It's quite boring though, isn't it?
It is.
I'm bored.
Have you finished your song yet, Barry?
The guy who plays the deaf drummer,
he's brilliant.
Riz Ahmed, he was in a TV show called The Night Of, which is a film.
Oh, that's him. Sorry, I didn't realise it was him.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I love that show.
Fuck, what a show.
I didn't realise that was him. Jeez, he's so different in it.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's British, but plays like unbelievable New York or whatever accent he's got going on. Very talented. He's a rapper as well, I think. Check it out, though. I'd highly recommend the film. The other one that's coming out is, did you see the Chicago 7, the trial of the Chicago 7, Sacha Baron Cohen and a few others?
No, I haven't
Also
seen
very
it.
good.
He's acting in it.
Yeah, he's up for Best Supporting Actor.
No way.
Yeah, he's good. He's so good.
Brilliant.
He kind of plays a bit of a slapstick. Not yuppie. What's a hippie? Kind of like a hippie guy, protester guy.
Woke.
No, it's 70s. Like, so
right, okay.
But he was. Can't remember the exact word. So he kind of plays a bit of a loose comedy, kind of funny guy.
Yeah.
So it suits his acting skills. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to do that for the week. I'm going to watch as many of them as I can. And just try and watch them as if I'd be in the cinema.
Yeah.
Very present. Move the couch over in front of the TV. You know?
Popcorn.
Making Annabelle covered in popcorn.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be in bed. So we'll get into your city a little bit, and then we'll get straight into the fact that there's no rugby, but we'll talk a little bit about the Irish hiding from France and look into next week.
It's Trumpy silly little bit.
Mini rugby started back this weekend, and from what I saw, the future of Irish rugby looks very bleak indeed. The kids' skill set looked very rusty, and there was barely a ball caught on the hour. Eventually someone said, "Let's just play What's the Time, Mr. Wolf." Italy could steal a jump on Ireland by securing their spot in the Six Nations in 2035 by ensuring their 6-year-olds can catch the ball in 2021. But undoubtedly, the highlight of my weekend was our trip to Home Bargains. The new store at the Abbey Centre has just opened and it was queued up the street. Let me tell you, it was worth the wait. Absolute carnival atmosphere inside, and the one-way system in place made it feel like we were running with the bulls in Pamplona. If Home Bargains is Pamplona, the remote control car Jack got for $7.99 was the bull. As it got slaughtered at home a few hours later. And by slaughtered I mean Jack lost the head and smashed the faulty remote control off the ground when the car wouldn't turn left or right. Today's lesson in life, son, you get what you pay for. Maybe you'll have more joy at Marks and Spencer's when Mummy takes you out next weekend. Munster managed to convince the IRFU to pay half of Zebo's contract for next season. Exciting times for Munster supporters as the King returns. Only time will tell if Munster shop in Marks and Spencer's or Home Bargains. Fingers crossed Zebo isn't slaughtered by a matador at Thomond Park at the end of the season.
Turn left, Zebo. Turn left. Keeps running into touch. Say Zebo's broken, lads. Very good. Very, very good. Bleak, underage mini rugby.
Very little rugby. Just, I think the coaches just assumed they're going to be rubbish. Let's just try and put smiles on faces and make sure they come out next weekend.
Good for you to get back and do a bit of socialising with other parents, yeah?
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah. Who's playing? Both of them, Jack and Molly?
Jack and Molly, yeah.
Oh.
So Molly was the only girl there.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And
how did she get on?
But just with the women.
Are they in the same? They're not in the same team, are they?
Well, she's kind of like pre-P1, so like nursery or whatever. But Jack started then as well, and then P1 and P2 go together. So she's 2 years younger than him. So she's not the smallest, but she's close to the smallest. But she's probably one of the youngest.
That's interesting.
But there's no girls in P1, P2, like 2 full year groups.
And that was kind of the telling in the match of the weekend.
Yeah. I kind of thought, obviously, the Women's Six Nations is higher profile than it would be because it's usually, overshadowed by the Men's Six Nations, and so everybody takes slightly more of an interest. And then you kind of maybe find yourself thinking, it's just occurred to me, well, it doesn't bode well for the future of the Ireland women's team if there's only one girl here. Does it?
No, it doesn't.
And I don't think
mini rugby. Where's the cool rain?
No, it's
yeah. Well,
it sounds like I'm being critical of the club. I'm being critical of
the uptake.
No, it's just an
not
interesting
at all
observation.
club, no,
What was being said at the weekend was how many of those French players have played the game since they were 7 or 8 years of age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas you look at a lot, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I think there was only 2 girls on that Irish team that have played the game since they were kids.
Yeah.
I think Dorothy Wall, I think, played for Feather, who are who were one of the strongest women's team for years now. They put a massive effort into underage, but then I think she stopped playing. She was 10 or 11, or didn't really have any take up until she was late teens. So, and then most of the girls are basketball players or
Gaelic
footballers who've swapped over as adults, which will, there's serious athletes and stuff, but it's those little, I think, things you pick up as a kid, right? That it's very hard to replace that.
I think rugby is one of the most difficult sports to transition into. Like America tried this. Anybody who feels at NFL, then they move into rugby, or any other sport, then they move into rugby. But I just think you're massively overlooking how kind of niche the skill set is, and how I think even guys, I think you can tell the guys that picked up rugby late in their teens, and if they went to mini rugby when they were youngsters, I think you can tell. I think you can tell by the way they play.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a few examples, which I won't name.
Yeah, it's just when you come up against France are so good. Like when you come up against those players that have.
Do you know when they say semi-professional? What do they mean? Do they mean they're drawn a wage from a club team that they play for in France?
Yeah,
and they also may have another job as well.
Yeah, I presume.
All right,
so,
okay.
But, that is the tricky one for the RFU. Is how I heard Niamh Briggs talk about this. How if they do make a semi-pro or professional, they will have to actually offer decent money
contracts,
because a lot of these girls would have decent jobs. So why would they give up their job?
Oh yeah.
So that's but look, I mean, it's going in the right direction. I know they just come up against the class French team, but they're getting it on TV, primetime TV, on a Saturday afternoon with no other games on. That's very disappointing that it ended up like that, but
true.
But I still think there's enough quality there that there'll be a lot of young girls watching that who will be keen to play. Did you watch it? Did you see any of it?
No.
It was frustrating. As I said, I watched 60 minutes, and then I just had jobs that I needed to do, so I ended up being pulled away and dipping my head back in. But they were kind of beating themselves at times, making a lot of mistakes, forcing it. Then they try it. They were like, "We need to get the ball to Parsons. We need to get the ball to Parsons." Just passing it straight across the field, and obviously they were just knew exactly that's what Ireland were going to try and do.
Yeah,
we're all over. So, but yeah, to leak 8 tries in the way they did, and France then like bringing on half their better players for the second half as well. They kind of rested loads of them. Frustrating. Anyway, what else was in your city a little bit?
Pamplona. Did you ever go to that? The Pamplona run of the Bulls?
I didn't. Have you done that?
Yeah.
Have you?
That was a great trip.
Does that still happen?
Don't know.
Doesn't sound like
cruel.
Something would happen.
Seems cruel nowadays, doesn't it?
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not very woke.
No. Good crack.
Decent night's crack though.
Yeah. That was like mid-season trip away for the lads, wasn't it? If you get a little weekend off, or was it a summer thing?
No, it was a summer thing. Yeah, it was July.
Did you actually run?
Yeah, I ran. I say I ran.
Is it kind of like a load of people coming out of a match kind of vibes?
Yes, with bulls behind them. I was quite strategic though, and I hid at the corner where the bulls come round that corner, but they kind of go wide, a kind of wide arc, and like hooves kind of scrambling on the cobbles.
Oh, the remote control can't go left or right very well.
Yes, yeah. So you kind of just wait till they go past, and then you're pretty safe, and then you sort of run along as if you were part of it. That was my tactic anyway. But you get boys running along right in front of the bulls, like whacking the bulls on the nose with newspapers and stuff.
Whoa!
Aye, these boys, like veterans of Pamplona, they love it.
Fuck. I don't think I'd be into that now.
Because it's dangerous, or because it's cruel?
Yeah, like a bit of both. I fell over today going for a walk. Fell on the ground on my face with my hands in my pocket.
I came across a cyclist that had a brutal fall outside Kilfenora today.
Really?
Just when I was driving into the to Kilfenora village, he was flat out. I say he was just fresh after falling off the bike, and there was 2 other cyclists with him. But like, his face was ripped.
Hands in his pocket as well. Big mistake. Tight pants, hands in the pocket.
Fell straight over.
New shoes I had on, and they got stuck in a twig. I was confident enough. This twig isn't going to overpower me. I don't need to pull my hands out. And with it, before I knew it, I was flat on my face.
So you just went over the handlebars?
I was walking.
I know, sorry, figuratively, just like straightforward. You didn't roll or flip, like you just...
No, I kind of gave up once I realised I was going to fall. I said, I must have tactically went, you'll do as little damage as possible if you just go rigid and fall, as opposed to try, So I just went... And there was quite a lot of foliage on the ground, so
Was it Connell there?
No, this was today. This is just today out for my own walk.
Oh, you'd be gutted if you fell in front of O'Connell, wouldn't you? I would love to see O'Connell fall, though. Like a big oak tree. Timber!
Yeah, it was windy up there. It was, you had to be sure-footed up on the top of that feckin' hill, all right. How was the guy today? Did he bad hurt himself? That's what I'd be afraid about cycling, man. And you have your feet tied in as well, wouldn't you?
Oh, he was minced in the middle of the road.
Oh my god!
Sure, remember I told you about the time I came off on the bike when we used to work, when we used to go to Dublin to record, and I would have cycled along, got off at the station and cycled along the Lewis track, but the Lewis track kind of just veered off to the left, but my it was quite wet, and my wheel just popped into the Lewis track, like the groove, and then just sent my front wheel like 45 degrees left, and I just went over the handlebars and landed on my back. And then there was a homeless guy over to the side, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Roy." I was there, shut up. I'm trying to get up here and get out of here before anybody sees. Don't cause a scene.
Oh yeah, I did that today. I was looking around, good old scene. Please don't let anyone see me.
Yeah.
Some student there with a phone recording me, but there wasn't, thank God.
When we had when Timothy Nagusa was playing for Ulster, he used to cycle to training, and Robbie Diak was going past him in the car whenever he was just about to pull into the training ground, and Robbie saw him like fall off his bike, and Robbie was inconsolable. He arrived in and he couldn't even get it out of him, like what had happened, because he was laughing so hard.
There is something about someone falling.
Yeah,
I love it. As long as they don't hurt themselves. You do that quick check. Yeah, right. Yeah. Rugby wise, will we just do a quick synopsis of it here?
Yeah.
There's not like the matches are on next week. Munster versus Leinster, Ulster versus Connacht. I'm hoping Munster and Leinster throw out 2 15s of young fellas. I don't want to see anyone obvious playing. I want to see Knox, Wycherley, Barron. Is it Barron? That is the name of the front row? Yeah. Ahern, Wycherley in the second rows. Kendellen, that guy that came on from Munster, get him playing 6. Jack O'Donoghue, Gavin Coombs, Craig Casey. I'd love to see Carberry play again. Even centres wise, I'd love to see Shane Daly. Apparently he can play 13. Do you remember that? 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'd love to see him get a go at 13. Maybe alongside Damien Delende or something, get a little bit of experience in there. Conway on a wing, Gallagher full back, Coombs on a wing. All young fellas.
Why do you want to see young fellas? Because the criticism in the past was always with the Interpros. This is the first season we've actually had full strength Interpros, and it's been a bit of a novelty. Now we've had that novelty twice already, so it's not as much of a novelty. But you know what I mean? The criticism was always, oh, we've lost the rivalry.
Doesn't feel like the same buzz though, does it, for these interpros?
Yeah. I
Straight
agree.
away.
I agree. It's not at all. Is that because we've had Leinster Munster, like this will be the third time we've had it in, 3 or 4 months? Or is that because that rivalry is just not quite what it should be?
No, it'll be the 5th time they've played since September.
Yeah.
And it's been the same result every time.
Definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe not it. Okay, I understand if they threw in 2 or 3 of the more senior players in with that, you'd be happy enough. But I'd love to see a good bunch of them playing. You know.
Yeah. So for Leinster and Ulster, they'll be selecting strategically to give guys the right amount of game time to kick on to semi-finals of Europe, because they're both in the semi-finals of Europe to different degrees.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong? They're both in the semi-finals of Europe.
They are. I can't wait for that Leicester match. I think that's going to be a cracker.
Yeah.
Leicester playing very well.
Did you see the spiral bomb that went up for Leicester in the Gallagher Premiership today?
No.
Over the weekend.
You love Gallagher Premiership.
It just comes up on Twitter all the time because I like follow like hashtags rugby union and stuff. But who's 10? Is it Ford? 10 for Leicester. That spiral bomb
what Geordie was
that
talking
Geordie was
about.
talking about. And your man couldn't just hop straight off his chest, and Leicester scored a try off it.
He did well, even getting it anywhere
Scored a
near
try
your
off it,
chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chaos.
That's great. Well done, Geordie, for your work. Yeah, I think that's going to be a good game, be a tough game. Is it on Ravenhill or over there?
No, it's in Leicester.
Okay. So you reckon, they'll want them, they've had a weekend off,
Well,
so
just
they'll want
they'll
them fresh, but...
Yeah, they're planning for a fixture in a couple of weeks' time, specifically, and kind of strategically selecting based on that to manage game time. Whereas Connacht and Munster these aren't anywhere near as important. They're not building for anything short term. Depends what happens with the Rainbow Cup. We don't know. It's all up in the air. So they're more inclined to think, let's build depth, let's give young guys experience. You would have thought.
It's interesting for the likes of Munster and Connacht. I don't know what's at stake financially if you were to win the Rainbow Cup. I think every team gets some like 800 grand for taking part in it, but I'm not sure how important results are in it. So it'd be interesting to see how the players approach it. Whether they I was thinking about it, what would I do if I was in a Munster or Connacht team now? Would I, strength and conditioning wise, would I try and put on a load of weight? Would I try and just fucking ramp a bit of a pre-season here in between these games? It's a good opportunity there. The season is 2 months left.
I don't think the players are motivated by the cash up for grabs if they win a competition anyway. I don't think so, because I don't think it would land that much in terms of them individually.
Yeah, just in terms of what the strength and conditioning staff would do to them, but I feel like they could make a lot of gains in that period physically. You could do a lot. You could do a lot between now and September. Turn yourself into a bit of a freak. Do you remember the way Sexton came back after the first lockdown?
Yeah.
Like a fucking freak. He's 30. What's he? 36 now.
Yeah, he was enormous, wasn't he? His upper body.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see the value in a 10 do that anyway.
No. Yeah, I know. You'd wonder, but I think certainly some of the forwards out there and certain backs could potentially get themselves into ridiculous shape. Not to be said for it, especially when we keep being compared to the South Africans and the lack of physicality, or England and the lack of physicality Ireland have. Get them all beefed.
Yeah, the pendulum swings back and forward, doesn't it?
I know. Yeah.
At the minute, are we saying it's trendy to get them beefed? Because there's lads these like yeah, exactly, yeah. Because Stockdale came out and he said how he lost some weight whenever he was injured there, and he felt sharper, felt fitter, felt just more mobile on the pitch.
I don't know. I mean, explode. You can get strong and you can build muscle but get explosive and fast. But I suppose you don't want to change your you want to be able to like Hugo Keenan. You could say, oh yeah, he could be bigger, but he'd lose his what do you call it? His slippiness,
His spangliness.
spangly,
I think he looks spangly.
slippy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't want to lose that.
No, when we were youngsters, it was get big. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was get big,
it was
get
totally
powerful.
for me. It was like that. Barry needs to eat 7 meals a day. You need to get big, and then I got big, and I got a bit slower. Like I felt like I wasn't as nimble. Whereas when I was light, I just had to stay as far away from people as possible, or they'd just swing me around the place. And so I was way better. I was slippier.
Yeah, you're spanglier.
Yeah, but it is when you're coming up against big fucking massive lads, and you're a skinny little thing. It's there's something in the confidence as well. I feel like you'd need to.
Ringrose is a good example. Like he's another one who, not so much. I don't think we've seen the best of him in the last period, but generally he's really slippy, really punchy. Just punches really hard through holes. I think he looks like a guy who just benefits from just having that agility and being a little bit lighter. He actually he just looks really, really well for it. I think generally, not so much in the last recent time, but
I know. I think he's
very slippy, lovely
Yeah.
slippy hips.
like Conrad Smith is. he
Conrad
wasn't a big-
Smith, yeah,
wasn't a big guy, but he'd power and strength in his hips. Snake hips, they called him. He wasn't a big guy. You wouldn't look at him and go, but he was powerful. We'll see. I'd be interested to see what they'd be at.
what are you drinking there, Barry?
I am drinking a cup of tea with a whiskey in it. and it's
Okay, well, we're not
delicious.
sponsored by them. I've got a wee I don't know what this is, like a wee unmarked tin, wee boundary tin. I think it's a
It's like
Mbongo.
a tin from the future. Yeah, we've ran out of beer. So if you could send us more beer, Boundary Brewery, that would be amazing.
Yeah, join the party, everyone. boundarybrewing.coop/shop. Use the discount code Will Addison.
One of the things I was going to do when I was on that hike the other day, when I was saying we were with a life coach. This is on the weekly pothole. I was telling you, I was going for a hike with Paulie and a life coach. Now I didn't get to chat too much about. I didn't want to be too.
So you're a bit of a life coach, yeah?
What that involves. But remember you were talking about mirroring people, or were we talking about this?
Yeah.
Where you mirror someone's, so if they say something, you you agree with what they say, or you repeat what they say.
My kids do this actually. Molly goes, Jack, stop doing that. Jack goes, stop doing that, Jack.
But what were we? I can't remember why we brought it up the other day, but it was a thing that people use, this tactic.
It's
where
manipulative technique,
manipulative
isn't it?
thing where they
I think it's used in sales.
sales. Yes, using sales where they try and warm people up. They're like, and it's and it works like a treat. Apparently,
It's like an ego booster.
yeah. I don't know how to do it, but I've read that loads of times. But I was thinking of doing it on the hike to see how it would work with, especially with the life coach guy, to see what. And then I was going to say it to him at the end. I've been mirroring you.
I've been mirroring you the whole time.
Then I was wondering, what if he goes, I've been mirroring you? And you're like, oh. And then we've just been mirroring each other. It's like as if you look, if you're in a Jackson, there's loads of mirrors and you just like.
And you just it goes on forever.
How is that? Where does that conversation
Mirror
end up
into mirror
going?
into mirror into mirror.
Just constantly repeating each other. And we didn't really talk about this recently, but we were kind of did. We had a conversation on Instagram Messenger when if I tag you in a post on or a story on Instagram, and then you repost
Reshare,
it,
yeah.
and then if I
Reshare.
reshare, how does that stop? Can that just go on forever?
That goes on and on and I mean, so with the first person posting something, second person is posting something that they're happy to promote, and then the third person is posting that they're delighted that person is promoting what they're initially posting. It's like Inception, like 3 levels deep in a dream.
Yes.
and both of those individuals are going like in slow motion through the rest of the day.
Oh, just keep posting.
Yes.
Posting. Can we try this as a little experiment to see if this works?
Would eventually, how many reposts would break Instagram? Like they have to have. You gotta draw the line somewhere. There has to be at some stage a warning pops up. You gotta stop this, lads. You gotta stop this.
Cop on to yourselves, for God's sake.
It's not what Instagram is for. We both know you're happy to promote each other.
Yes,
leave
yes.
it there.
That's the warning that pops up.
Yeah. So I didn't. We ended up walking in single file for ages. So
It's too hard to
Single
talk. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the top of a ridge. It was hard to mirror from behind.
Polly, it's me, Barry, at the back. Two people back from you there. Just
Yeah,
wondering.
How do you happen? What happens at the back? Like, who are you shouting?
Yeah, you're generally talking to the person closest to you. So that's the way it went.
Yeah.
It wasn't. We all came down and said, lads, we need to go across the way from here on.
Oh, yeah.
3 abreast.
3 abreast. We need to pick our walks. There are 3 or 4.
Or like a flying V in Mighty Ducks. Like a triangle.
Yeah, that would work. If it was, yeah.
And when you're out on the bike, you always have to go 2 and 1. If there's 3, it's always awkward because you're always left out a wee bit, I find. And I'm always the slow one, so I'm usually left out at the back.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we get we take a break and we'll come back for part 3 for our
Yes, just
Heroes of the AL.
to anticipate this this interview, we've pre-recorded this just for the benefit of the listener. And when Andrew was coming on, we were talking about Barry was like, get involved here, ask about a couple of Shannon players, and so then I was like Tony Buckley, for example, and then this was hilarious. I was like,
That one went down like a lead balloon.
so I was just like, I wasn't really listening to what he said, but he said something about Shannon in the early days, and I just went, Mushy Buckley, and he goes, no. I went, right. Well, let me know.
he was talking about.
Let me know when the interview's over then.
Yeah,
I chuckled to myself a few times afterwards.
I did notice that.
What a great
Mushy-
lad, though. Anyway,
Mushy is. I meant to ask him properly about Mushy. What a freak of nature. Sorry, Mushy. Yeah.
What you mean, freak is in strength, like
just
super.
enormous, like massive.
He was like 22 stone, 6'5", I'm gonna say. But his thickness of his arms, his wrists, and his hands.
Wow.
He was like Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
But he had great ball skills. He was a hurler and a footballer and played number 8 all the way up in school. Remember him? He came to play for, I think it might have been Newbridge or something. He came to play against Munchins, and everyone was allowed out of class to watch the fella.
The mountain.
It's like the circus.
Yeah. Such a... when are you going to find another athlete like that?
Yeah.
Come around once every 100 years, I'd say.
But anyway, great interview. Listen up, folks.
Yeah. Enjoy. Bottles and Penguins is an independent production. And what I mean by that is...
It may sound like we don't know what we're talking about. You might even think Barry's hardly even played professional rugby and Dermy likes hurling. We want you to think that. It takes a lot of preparation to sound this unprepared.
We work very, very hard at what we do. And we want to make this show the best podcast in the world. For just a $5 a month, you can help us do that.
Go to patreon.com/potholes and penguins and you can help me make these two fools look and sound even better than I already am making them look.
Okay, welcome back to part 3, the heroes of the Energia All-Ireland League. And we have been joined by absolute royalty, Irish All-Ireland League royalty. I'd say, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're the highest amount of appearances in AIL history. Would that be correct?
I think you're wrong, Barry.
Fuck.
But I probably
close to it.
There's a few guys there. There's one guy, I forget his name, but up Dungannon way, and he played. He was prop forward for Dungannon. Andy, you might know his name. He ended up being I'm
Big
not,
ginger
not-
fella, is he?
No, he was dark hair. Jeez, I forget his name. Was it McCormack? No, but anyway, he was the most capped, I think, All Ireland Division 1 player at the time. So much so that he was actually president of the club, right? And he did the pre-match meal. This is no lie now, right? He did the pre-match function as president, and then togged out for Dungannon I think he was subbing.
Holy shit.
He had hundreds of caps in the AIL, so he was way ahead of me.
He wins. Okay. But he does not have 9 medals. 9
He doesn't. Probably
All-Ireland
not, no.
medals. That is obnoxious. That is
Greedy, I would say. Greedy.
Disgusting. Greedy.
I wish I had more. I wish I had more. Look, I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah,
Humble. Greedy and humble, the worst combination.
Well, you're in Dubai. In Dubai now, do they recognise an AIL medal around your neck in Dubai?
No, there's not enough gold, not enough bling in the AIL medal for Dubai. They've got feckin' Hummers made of gold here and all sorts, so it won't fit in.
It's a long way from a Tuesday night in the pissing rain and freezing cold showers in Kuna for Shannon or FC.
It is.
Andrew Thompson, welcome to Potholes and Penguins. Just in case.
Thank you very much. It's an honour and a privilege to be here with you guys.
Do you listen to the show?
I do from time to time. You know.
I'll do. Do you believe him, Trimby?
From time to time, just balled it at the last second.
Time to time is technically 2 times, so maybe I'll listen to it 2 times. Okay. This is one of those 2 times.
In anticipation.
Exactly.
Good enough. Last time we met, we were at a Hermitage Green gig in Dubai.
We were. I was cheering you on as the good local any of the local connections. There's lots of GA jerseys floating around there. Yeah. As we mentioned earlier, I wasn't wearing a GA jersey. I'll have to admit, my Leash jersey didn't fit me. I didn't have it actually. I didn't have it at the time, but it was a good crack.
Dubai gigs aren't a great representation of how cool Hermitage Green gig is.
I lost my big toenail on the last Dubai gig.
It was bitten off by a fella from Offaly, nibbling at the back of the stage.
Yeah, it wasn't a Leash man anyway. It was an Offaly. Those guys, different breed altogether.
Did you chuck it? Did you chuck it into the crowd, Dermy?
Oh, jeez.
Ran out of pigs and drumsticks.
Oh, nice.
Give me your toenail. Flicking snots.
We'll take anything. He's Irish.
It's because of the fucking brunches that we play. So people go to brunch at 12 o'clock in the day, and then we've a gig at 8 o'clock, and they are cross-eyed by the time we get on
I have to admit, I'd say there was only. I was probably one of the more sober ones, but the rest of them were just completely gee-eyed and had no idea there was a band playing behind them, and the rest of them were watching. And that was nothing got to do with the quality of music bar. It was just they were totally out of their minds from brunching.
Thank you. Oh, I'd take it in the morning though. Jesus, what I wouldn't do for
it.
But take us back. Let's go with the 4 in a row first, right? 4 in a row, because you had a 3 in a row, obviously, Jesus, and they need another couple. But the 4 in a row has always been mentioned as one of the most special. How old were you in that when you won the first one?
I think it was 12 or 13. I can't remember.
You were 12.
I was 19, 20. No, actually, the first year I played, we didn't win anything, so we were fairly mediocre, as they say, and we had lots of talent.
Give us an idea of the talent. Who are we talking?
Mushy Buckley.
No, he wasn't. Before. He wasn't around then. He came later, actually, a good bit later. But we had obviously Axel was out of school the year ahead of me, so he had played a season with Shannon Seniors as a teenager, but with a big old man's head on him. In fairness to him, he was way ahead of his time. But he was around the year before me. Then there was myself. There was John Hayes, Alan Quinlan, and a few other guys as well. But that was kind of a group out of the under-20s that came through. And Brendan Foley was our coach in the under-20s when I came out. But that year, a couple of us got to play with Shannon seniors. I don't think Quinny played that year. I'm not sure now. He mightn't thank me for saying that, but I think it was the year after he came through.
It's grand. We're fighting with him anyway. It's fine.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough.
You can say what you want about him.
But we were only kind of mid to low table at that stage, and it was like very frustrating because we had some great players. Gallo was there, you had Kieran Marr, Mazzy, one of the best number sixes around. You had heap of other guys, Paddy Kenny, Hooker, some serious players, but we didn't probably have the fitness or the discipline or the right attitude. So things kind of changed at the end of that season, in the off season, and they changed the kind of coaching structure a little bit. Off the management, on the management side, off the field was starting to come together really well as well. And then Niall O'Donovan was our head coach. You guys know Niall, and
did he coach you, Trimby?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for Ireland,
did and a man I've a lot of respect for. Like I always say, and I've had a good few coaches around during the day with Munster as well, but I'd put Niall and Joe Smith up there as the two best coaches I've ever had. I had Joe in school, and then I had Niall when I came out of school, so I was blessed, really.
Did you? Joe was your teacher. Where did you go to school?
He was in Mullingar. I don't know if you remember. He would have come to Ireland. Joe would have come to Ireland back in the low 90s as a player coach with Mullingar Rugby Club, and I went to school in Wilson's Hospital, and that was just outside Mullingar, Multifarnham, and he came as a coach. Joe Weaver, God rest him, another great ex-Thomond College, Dave Mahidi class of whenever it was in the 70s or 80s, PE teacher Joe Weaver was my PE teacher there, maths teacher, passed away now since, poor man. But he would have got Joe Smith out to coach us, our senior schools team. And we had a very, very low numbers. It was a mixed kind of school at the time, maybe 200-300 pupils, and half of them were girls, half of them were boys. So you can imagine the numbers we had to pick from our senior team. And Joe, the two Joes had us, and he managed to pull us together, and we just ended up doing the best we've ever done. We got to the final of the schools, Leinster schools, Section A schools, like a weaker section, but we were punching way above our weight, and we beat a lot of the Section B schools in friendlies as well that year. Senior, fairly decent teams as well. And Joe Smith just had us like running like a smooth machine.
Incredible,
we had a
man.
very good back line.
For him to go from there to what he's achieved with Ireland is incredible.
Yeah. But then getting
what was
back
it
to
like though? Just give me a quick, what was he? Was it technically through the roof? Was it just his man? What he got out of
it was everything.
individually?
Everything he was in more recent years, just like as a guy, as a coach, he's just a really good guy, And but technically, he's so on the ball as well. But he got a lot out of us. I mean, I'll give you an example of some of his technical stuff. Going back then, we had a French-born winger, a guy called Nicolas Drian. One of the fastest wingers I've ever seen, and but he couldn't catch a ball to save his life. Absolutely useless at catching a ball, right? But Joe, both Joes, but Joe Smith would have recognised his talents as a winger. He was unbelievably fast, very strong, and when he had the ball in his hand, if he could manage to hold on to it, was just like lightning, and he was scoring loads of tries, but he just couldn't catch a ball. So I remember one session, Joe Smith just took him to one side and he said, "Look, I want you to focus. You're looking at the rugby ball as a total thing, like a rugby ball. But I don't want you to look at a rugby ball. I want you to try and look at the stitching on the ball as it's coming towards you to catch it." So he's got him to focus on something smaller, which made it easier to catch. The guy ended up catching everything after that. It took him maybe a couple of sessions, but he was like, I think he was the top try scoring winger in Leinster at the time. Brilliant. And so that was a small little thing. He just did it, but he was just, I guess, common sense, and he was a good teacher, and he was a good person, and we had a great year with him. Technically, it was brilliant. I learned more that year than I learned my entire career. To be honest, it's a pity.
Wow.
I only had him for a year, but it helped me a lot.
Mm.
But getting back to Nilo, as being up there, one of the coaches at the start of the 4 in a row. Nilo was coming in as a former player, and in fact, I think he was the only coach at the time. He would have had to play. He played a game for us. I don't know whether it was the first year in the AL or was the year before, but he had to sub, and he came on as a sub against Greystones, I think. But he was just a raw ex-player coming into coaching, and he was quite raw himself, but incredibly talented in my mind as a coach. And I would go out on a limb as to say that Declan Kidney and Sullivan and a few other coaches would not have got to where they got to with Irish rugby, Munster rugby, whatever, without Niall O'Donovan. I mean, he was a serious coach, and you can ask any of the players that would have played underneath him at Munster level or Irish level. I mean, he was a seriously good technical forwards coach, unbelievable to have as a second, your right hand man.
Yeah, here.
Very underestimated. So he was a big catalyst as well. Off the field, then we had Brian O'Brien, and Brian was our manager and selector as well. And I mean, he's former line selector and a legend himself, very well respected all over the world, but in Irish rugby as well in particular, and a really good guy. So we just had a collective of very good coaching and selection management staff, and then off the field. From the president, from the PRO was my mother-in-law, Bridget O'Loughlin. She had the whole press going as a well-oiled machine, for those 3-4 years that she was PRO. Jerry O'Loughlin, my father-in-law, was the honorary secretary. You can tell how I got into the club. I knew Jerry and Bridget before I married my wife Sinead, their daughter. But there was just rugby in the blood there, and not just in those people, but lots of other people as well. Alan Oakley was another guy who was involved in the club. There's a heap of people I could mention, and they just had a really good off the field collective. From the senior rugby committee, the junior rugby committee, the underage rugby committee, they were just all singing off the same hymn sheet, and it just fed into us. It just fed into us as a senior team. So it was all there for us to be successful. We just needed to get fit and take it seriously. And they brought in Dave Mahedy as well, which was unbelievable for us because he was way ahead of his time in my mind as well, and he just really knocked a lot of sense into us.
So what did you do as an amateur team? How do you get super fit when you've only got?
It was.
Do your 9 to 5.
It was his first big problem for us was he knew we were very talented players, but we needed to get us fit, and there was a couple of individuals he probably needed to work hard at than others. I was reasonably fit. I was always, probably lighter and easier running around the place like a young fella. But you had Brian Rigney, a big man, one of the biggest men ever I've played with, and he had to get him fit, and he did. And Brian played some of the best rugby he's ever played with us. He was massive for us, and then some of the other players as well along with him up front, because we had a serious big forward pack. So he did a lot of work with them. It wasn't just fitness as well, but it was also the whole sports psychology side of things as well. Dave was big into that, and he got us kind of thinking it in a different way. We were all buying into it. I think one of the big things, I mentioned it on a previous thing earlier, the end of last year, but he brought in the extra days training session. Well, we could say nearly 2. We basically, everyone trained on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but we did our fitness on a Monday. And that fitness was serious fitness in UL with Dave Mahedy. We were running the hills along the bowl where the sports track is. We were doing other sprints, other stuff, when none of the other clubs were doing it. And that was to get that fitness session done and dusted early in the week, so that we could have a Tuesday session where we just tore strips out of each other, and then a Thursday session where a little bit of contact, whatever, and then some of the more technical planning stuff. And it was the days before video analysis. I mean, the only video analysis we did was on the Saturday morning before a match. We would have watched the opposition from the previous week, and it would have got it off RTE, would have been taped off RTE. That was the only video analysis we had then. But then after that, we'd play our game on the Saturday, and we'd go on the beer and drink as much as or more than any other teams, enjoy ourselves. But on the Sunday morning, we would have a compulsory short fitness session, but it was purely designed by Dave Mahedy, literally just to run the beer
Drink
out of
outing.
us. Yeah, so that meant that the Monday session
So that was the edge.
was fairly kind of beneficial to us. You know, we weren't going into the Monday session hungover, and also there was lads not going on the beer on the Sunday as well, which happened probably in other clubs as well. You know,
So that was the edge that you felt you'd gotten.
that was a big part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
a big part of it.
And then there was a
but we had a
bitterness.
very good team.
There was
as
a
well,
bitterness
in
there
fairness.
in Shannon as well, I believe, back in the day.
There was. There was.
About players not getting selected for Ireland, etc. That maybe should have
Yeah.
been, and that kind of probably spurred you on another bit.
Yeah, we would have got a bit of mileage out of that for sure for a couple of years.
Whatever
and,
works.
And it wasn't just Shannon as well. I mean, there was other really good clubs in Munster that were being overlooked. Garryowen, Young Munsters, Cons. You could have said Sunday as well. As well in their day, they had some cracking players when they won a Munster Senior Cup there back in the early 90s. So it wasn't just Shannon, but there was a serious amount of Munster clubs being overlooked for Irish selection, and that kind of spurred us on as well. To be fair, we got to
fast forward then to the three in a row. That would probably been a different, like obviously a different group of players, but a different era as well when professionalism had kicked off a little bit more.
The whole thing kind of went on its head. We had the four in a row where we had all these really good players pushing to get on Irish teams, just turning into professionalism in the mid-90s. I was in college, kind of towards it, middle of through college, ended up getting a kind of a player contract with Munster at the time, and the way they gave out the contracts was semi-professional contracts at the time for most of them, and then there was a handful of, they were called IRFU contracts, and they were for some of the boys that would have been playing with the Irish squad at the time, like Claw and Golov and then Halvey, Foley, Quinney, then slightly after, and a few others, and John Hayes, whatever. But so when it went professional at the time, I mean, there was still a big impetus and a big interest by those players with their club, more so than Munster, because Munster, we were playing interpros against, the opposition teams in the various provinces, and there was like, 600-800 at a game if you were lucky, whereas the clubs were still pulling off 15,000, 16,000, 17,000 at key games, say in the right parts of the season in Limerick, or in Lansdowne Road. We had a couple of big crowds up there for finals or whatever. But then, the professionalism came in, and then it was like, the players were under more pressure to put more effort in with the provinces, which was the right thing to do, and it was the right model. It was just, there was a little bit of to and fro between the clubs and the provinces, I guess. For us, that was our unsuccessful period when we won the 4 in a row between that and the 3 in a row. But we just adjusted reasonably quickly, and we basically, as a group or as a collective, we said, look, we can't fight against the model. We have to work with the model. So let's get players into the club, decent players, and we get them up to the level as quick as possible that we can get them at. Like Ian Downing's a prime example. Get them up to the level that we can get them as quickly, and we get a few good years out of them, and we'll have success as a collective. They'll bring on other players as well, and then if they get into Munster, I mean, we should be happy about that and support them with it, and it did. It worked. Now we had to change our style. If you compared the 4 in a row team with the 3 in a row team, it was like a forward-dominated pack with decent backs in the 4 in a row, but mostly a forward-dominated type of game. And then it was the opposite in the 3 in a row. We had a really good back line, but a really good pack, but very mobile and a different shape. We didn't have the big John Hayes' Golovs, these guys, Brian Rigney's. We didn't have that. We had a more mobile, more dynamic, a faster, open type of forward pack, I guess. And then we had a really good backline. We had like Johnny Lacey, fullback. He scored a rake of tries, and we had wingers scoring tries as well. So we played a different type of game. I guess then we could kind of, some of the more senior players like myself and Davey and Johnny and Quinny, Quinny and Colin Mack and a few of the others, we could throw a little bit more influence on the type of game we wanted to play as well. And we had the support of the coaches, so we got a bit of success out of that as well. But it was a different approach, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was. You were such a hard team to come up against because of that experience you had. But then you were hoovering up all the really good young professional players coming into Limerick as well. They all wanted to play with Shannon because Shannon equalled success basically. So the likes of Dowling, Owen Cahill is a great example. Owen Cahill coming in from Bruff, who what a player!
One of the best players. I've said it. I mean, there's guys I'll mention, you know, and but Owen Cahill was one of the best players I've ever played with.
Yeah.
And if I played with some decent centres, but he was a guy in my mind.
Like
could have played for Munster, could have played for Ireland.
Yeah, it was like Scott Gibbs, had that kind of build, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly, and tough as nails, and also great hands and great rugby brain. I mean, his family, the Cahill family, are an immense for Bruff, and they had huge success in Bruff underage. They were the most successful underage club in Ireland for a number of years.
And that was interesting because Bruff had won tons underage, my age group all the way up, and they all went to Munchins, won junior cups at Munchins, senior cups at Munchins, and then they all went to Shannon. So Hayes would have started that. Hayes was probably the first one, right? And then Stephen Keogh, Owen Cahill, Garrett Noonan, tons more.
Yeah, we got a chunk of really good guys. And
so then you were getting a good blend of that, like schools players coming through from Munchins and stuff, but country lads coming through as well. You don't seem to see that anymore. Do you know? You don't see that many players from Bruff, for example. Like you don't see as many players. Like what was going on out there back at that time that isn't going on out there anymore? Is that something to do with?
I guess with all clubs, you're going to have transitions of really good coaching staff coming through at the time and hitting their peak and then going off. Maybe I don't know how much involvement some of these coaches would have in Bruff. If they have, you know, they just move on. So you there's timing and everything, really. But at that particular time, was I mean, he's a really good guy and a really, like, he would go around and pick up a rake of young fellas to play rugby matches at the weekend. He coached them. You know, they'd feed them in the club. They'd really look after them and send them back. And then the same guys would go play a GA match for Bruff on the Sunday, and they'd win all around them in the GA as well. They were just unbelievable out there, you know. So there's some serious athletes came through, and some like serious sports kind of people came through County Limerick from Bruff. Then Tipperary as well. We got a rake of decent players from Tip
because of
William
Quinny
and some really good guys.
Where did you prefer to play? Because you played all across the back line. Where was your number
as
one?
a position? I guess when I was in school, I was an out half, so that was probably my first love, or my real love in terms of position. But I got to like centre a lot. I ended up playing on the wing a bit as well. Never really liked that too much because you had big guys like Andy running at you or around you, and me, I was better at defending smaller spaces than bigger spaces. So my defence wasn't totally up to scratch out in the wider channels.
I remember playing against you. You were 13 and I was 13, and I'd say I'd established myself at this point playing with Munster, and someone was gearing it up as the young fella versus the old veteran, and you made
the old has-been.
You made a muppet of me, and it just takes one, like, you read a skip one pass and just creased me with a tackle, and I may have dropped it or something like that, and you got.
I remember he was in that game.
Tell me you stood over him and abused him. Tell me, please.
He did not.
What a wonderful opportunity.
I picked him up.
Too nice. Yeah, too nice.
And I patted him on the back. I said, Barry, don't worry about it. Don't worry. You when you get to my age, if you actually looked at the offside line, I was probably about 5 yards offside, Barry. I'll be honest with you.
That makes me
when you get older, you can cheat on the yards.
It makes me feel better because that's been haunting me. It was probably the biggest schooling, I swear to God, I ever got in my life from an opposite number. For some reason, you just absolutely schooled me. So
We had to close you down, Barry. You were so dangerous. There's no other way. We had to close you down. You know. So, yeah. I was probably offside a couple of yards there for sure because I didn't have the legs on me at that stage.
If you had a number one of the 9 that you won, which is your favourite?
I'd say the first one was really special, obviously, because it was your first, but it was also because we went unbeaten that year, and so we did 10 in a row, and it was myself, Axel, and Jim Galvin played in all the games. In fact, there could have been a few others played in all the games in the first one. And then in the 4 in a row, myself, Jim Galvin, and Axel played in all 40 odd games, whatever it was.
Wow.
So the first one was really special. Personally, I really enjoyed the Garryowen final in Lansdowne Road when they introduced the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we were kind of that was a big season for us because I think it was the 4th year. It was the 4th of the 4 in a row, but they changed the setup. Went into playoffs. It made it more exciting, and I managed to get a run of good games as well leading up to it. So personally, I played well. I got man of the match, I think in the semi-final against Mary's, and I got man of the match in the final as well. So I was kind of hitting my peak at that stage, and so it was enjoyable. That was very enjoyable, and also playing against Garryowen, a Limerick club that we really respected, and they were a really good team. I mean, they had, while he was playing, Steve McGyver, Dom Crotty was fullback. There's a heap of other players, legends playing for them as well. So we were up against it because they had played well all year. But also on the whole psychological side of things, not a lot of people might know this, but Shannon, as a club going back through the years, would have been a junior club for a long period of time, and they would have stayed junior until the 70s or 80s. I think it was, could be in the 70s. I can't remember, but when they turned senior, but they would have been a massive feeder club into into Garryowen. So I mean, if you took, and some of the Garryowen guys mightn't like me for saying this, but if you took a profile of all the capped players for Garryowen, through the years, if there's 100 or 200 players, I don't know how many players, but they've a serious amount of capped players. Back in the the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, a massive proportion of those would have been Shannon Junior Cup players that would have to play senior rugby. One of the only options they would have had would have been to play with Garryowen. So we used that as a massive psychological kind of boost for us for the final, and it was a big lead-in because we were basically playing at the ultimate in club rugby in Ireland in the final, in the ultimate venue in Lansdowne Road, our national, home grounds, etc. In front of national TV, in front of our home supporters, big crowds. So it was a massive motivating factor for us that we were, considered a junior club for so long, a big feeder club, and we're kind of, we used it as a bit of a psychological edge that day. We would have gone through any team, I think, that day.
They don't respect us. They don't respect you. I think we're feeders. That's all they think we're.
I know. But look, another example of that is like Thomond, massive junior feeder club. Yeah. Some serious players came through there, to Garryowen, to Shannon, to Young Munsters. Gerald's. One of the best number 7s not to be capped, if not, the best number 7 not to be capped for Ireland. There's a handful of them, but he would be up there. He was ex-Thomond and into Young Munsters.
It was it's the most golden time of club rugby, obviously, and I would say arguably of Irish rugby, because it was so pure, and to see the best of the best going up against each other week in, week out was just phenomenal. And I was fairly young, but going to all those games as a teenager, even though they were never Bowes games because we were never at that level, but those big games in Thomond Park, it was incredible. And to have won 9 AILs through that era and then the next era is absolutely incredible. So
thank you very much.
Probably one of the most worthy heroes of the All-Ireland
I wouldn't say that, no. I'm a bit embarrassed, to be honest, to be called anything like a hero, but I was just...
you'll get your mug, okay? You'll get your mug, and you'll get your jumper and your mug.
Excellent.
At the next Hermitage Green gig in Dubai.
Excellent.
Because I know posting stuff to Dubai can take about a month.
Oh, don't bother. It'll end up in Bird Dubai and I'll never see it. So
Okay,
some guy wearing
be good as well.
a jumper and a mug going around for himself.
Andrew, was it Paul McGee, the Dungannon player?
No, but I know Paul. I know Paul well.
He'd be up there, wouldn't he?
He would have been. I played. I think I played club internationals with Paul. Towards the tail end of my career, he was a centre, wasn't he? Paul McGee.
Yeah.
It wasn't Paul. He was a prop forward.
But I know he made his way. He came through the club as well because he was captain. I think he might have been. I don't know what the what do you call him? Like the president and all the allocadoos. I think he was.
He probably would have done that. Definitely.
He had a formal position like an allocadoos, whatever that was. Anyway.
Yeah. But he would have been up there as like there's some. I think there was definitely the Dungannon lads. There was a heap in there, but there was one guy in particular, and I can't remember his name, but he was a really good guy, really nice guy, but a legend in club rugby at the time. But he played. He was like 40. I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8. I don't know what it was, but he played. Right through. He's probably still playing. I don't. But that time he did a pre-match function as president, and said, "Guys, I have to say goodbye now because I need to tog off." And he went out and he played for Dungannon against us. I think he could have been subbing, but it was prop forward.
Still,
If I said his name, you'll know it because he would have played for Ulster as well. I'm sure.
wow.
I can't recall.
Great stuff.
What age were you when you retired?
I'm 47 now, so I was 30. I was 34 or 5, I think, at the time.
Okay, not too late.
The last 2-3 years was a bit of a nightmare for me. I had a back injury and I didn't really get to play much, and I kind of flogged it. I dragged it out as long as I could, but it just didn't work. So I ended up knocking it on the head.
Injuries, politics. You're just hungry for that number 10.
Yeah.
I'd still be hanging on there. Wouldn't I? The way things are going is not great. But I know they were good. They were good times. And like that, I mentioned just briefly, but that Thomond College thing, like and that the PE kind of college, as Thomond College was before it became University of Limerick, whatever. But whatever quality they had coming through at that stage, there's been some legends that have come through. Like Dave Mahedy is one of them, a man of a huge amount of respect for, and like, and he has respect across not just rugby codes, but like Limerick GA, Limerick football, Irish football. You talk to anybody about him as being instrumental or having an influence on Irish sport across, 3 codes. In a serious way, he would stand out there. But there was some of his classmates. You got Tony Ward was there. He was in Thomond College. I think he could have been in the same class. Dave Mahedy, maybe slightly after. I'm not sure. Joe Weeford, my former PE teacher, he was a middle distance or long distance runner for Ireland. And there was a heap of others. There was rowers, there was canoeists, there was and they were all at the top of their game in Irish sport. It'd be very interesting to go back and look at the class of, 76 or 78 or whatever it was for that group coming through over those number of years, because they had some serious quality PE teachers and serious quality individuals as well. Because they were all really good people as well, which probably made the difference.
Yeah, fair play. It's a sign of your character, just acknowledging all the people that have kind of helped you along the way. And I'm sure there's a lot of players out there who've played alongside you, and young lads who've come up underneath you would say the same about you. So
I don't know about that now, but we'll see. We'll find out.
Listen, Tommy, that's been an absolute pleasure listening to your story, and thanks a million for joining us. And as I said, your mug and your jumper will be here for you when you're home, or else.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.
Cheers,
lads. Appreciate it. Thanks, Andy. Cheers, Bart.
Now, did you enjoy that, lads?
Yeah, he's a cool
Great
dude.
Great fella.
He is a cool dude, isn't he?
So, did he marry into the McLaughlin dynasty?
The O'Loughlin.
The O'Loughlin. Oh, different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The dynasty, all the same.
Yes.
Yeah. He's great. Great family. Great fella. And yeah, just good. Yeah. Really good professional, even though he never
What do you mean? Just
Even
like
though he
attention
was
to detail, like-
amateur,
Well, he played for.
professional.
He paid. He got a. What did he say? He got a semi. Got a semi contract. But he was fucking more professional than the majority of lads that were full-time professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. I wonder why he didn't kick on more.
Just mean his approach to the game and everything, like.
Yeah. He kind of part of unbelievably successful team, and he was the common denominator, like, do you know.
What's the common denominator?
9 AIL wins, like, it's insane.
That's a lot. It's
And-
mad to hear him talk about AIL, like 15,000 people at matches.
Yeah, fucking crazy.
That's bambooling, like.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's strange how something like that can just
Change so much.
not exist anymore. Do you know, the GAA will obviously always be the GAA. I suppose soccer was a bit bigger maybe back in the day as well, but
Is there ever a road back for the AIL in terms of like.
I don't think so.
It's the assumption is that they're all just Munster supporters now,
Yeah.
or Leinster, Ulster, Connacht.
But just there was nothing. There wasn't as much going on in Limerick City back then. You know, there was
Just stabbings, really.
Oh,
you
Stabbings in AIL.
We took
Cheap
four
shot.
AIL.
Forbes
Cheap shot.
down, and you're next, you piece of shit.
Did you see the Waterford Whispers the article that followed up, and the headline was Collison brother stabs Forbes journalist.
Yes.
So good.
Yeah, apparently he's coming. Mr. Forbes is coming to Limerick now to do a 30 under 30 thingy.
Limerick, 30 people in Limerick under 30 who are.
Fabulous.
Really?
Yeah.
I always used to love those
Okay.
gas things.
A competition in the Strand Hotel. I'm a hairdresser from Norwood. I'm 24.
Barry Murphy is the 52nd best looking man in Limerick.
He's doing something. 30 under 30. Be a load of musicians and artists and crack, wouldn't it?
30 under 30.
It's great. We'll take your next, Trimble. You're next on our list. Get everyone on Twitter hating you now. You'll have to make a public apology.
Okay. No, well, do you think people listen this long?
Yeah. The Collisons listen. Definitely.
Did we talk about any movies in this episode?
That new Academy Award winner to be.
That'd be weird to do a new one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sound of Metal, Sound of Penguin, Penguin of Metal.
Home Bergens. What's the time, Mr. Wolf?
Great game.
Yeah.
What's that?
What's the time, Mr. Wolf? What's the
Whoa.
time? 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3. And you have to.
That's the song. Yeah, that's the song. Do you not know the game, Dermy?
Nah.
Who decides what time it is?
The Wolf.
And then can he just make it up? So if you say 5 o'clock, then you have to run away and he's to catch you.
No. If he says 5 o'clock, you have to take 5 steps towards the wolf.
Yes.
And you have to run away whenever he says dinner time.
Yes, I remember that. You can't. But why doesn't he just keep saying it until you're right beside him?
Well, Barry, it's a game for kids.
It's got
And
holes in it.
It's only a bit of crack. The wolf doesn't eat them.
All right. I don't know if there was a film, lads. Will
Sound of Penguin. The trick.
there you go. All right,
Party
we'll leave
on.
it there. Party on. We'll see you. We'll be back definitely with Mike Lowry this week for the weekly pod. All. Have a lovely week, folks. Party on.
Party on.
Party on.